The Full Exposure Podcast is made possible by Metro Health, University of Michigan Health, and Dr. Peter Hahn in appreciation for the contributions that artists and creative minds provide to our community. Arts and culture are essential to a rich and rewarding life, strengthening our overall well-being and our appreciation of all that we see, hear, and experience. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Full Exposure with me, your host, Brian Kelly. This is our very first coronavirus outbreak episode, and I hope we don't have a lot of these, but I think we're in this coronavirus thing for a while. But first off, I need to thank specifically LaughFest for making this episode with Adam Cayton-Holland possible. If you don't know LaughFest, if you're not from the West Michigan area or Michigan, LaughFest is a 10-day comedy festival which benefits, all the proceeds benefit Gilda's Club of Grand Rapids, which is named after Gilda Radner of Saturday Night Live fame. And their purpose and mission is to help anyone along their cancer journey. Now, these could be people with cancer. These could be family members who are impacted by cancer. These could be anyone who may have a friend and they are dealing with cancer in some way in their life. And the other part besides cancer is they deal with grief. And anyone who's on a grieving journey of some kind is welcome to attend and be part of Gilda's Club of Grand Rapids, and it's entirely free. There's no charges. There's no insurance card to present. It is a fantastic organization making a huge impact in people's lives. And so because of my long relationship with LaughFest, 10 years now, I've been creating artist portraits of the top comedians that come into town. Which brings me back to today's guest, Adam Cayton-Holland. I first met him in 2016. I did a portrait of him at the Pyramid Scheme where he was performing stand-up. And Adam and I had a very quick photo shoot. It was only quick because we nailed it. It was one of the easiest portraits I ever made. It probably lasted a minute and a half or 2 minutes. It was outside the Pyramid Scheme. It's a funny portrait. I put it on Adam's episode page at the fullexposurepodcast.com website. And I love it. And Adam loved it. And we made a very brief connection there. Did not stay in touch. But when LaughFest announced that he was coming back for the 2020 edition of LaughFest, I was excited because I was going to see Adam Cayton-Holland again in my hometown. And I knew I'd have to take another portrait of him. And for this edition, he was not just performing stand-up, he was performing his one-man show, which we talk a lot about in this episode. It's called Happy Place, and it deals with some very serious issues. It deals with depression. It deals with suicide that impacted Adam directly in his family. And he wrote something very moving, something very funny, and he performed his one-man show here at the Listening Room about a week ago as part of LaughFest. Now, as I record this introduction to this episode today on Friday the 13th, March 13th, LaughFest decided to prudently suspend the remaining shows because we can't gather in large groups and it's not safe for the community to gather in large groups. So they have postponed the remainder of their shows that were on this Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And we hope that, we'll get those rescheduled at some point this year. But I need to thank LaughFest because of they brought Adam Cayton-Holland in. And I asked him if I could do a podcast with Adam because, the subject matter of his stand-up while he was in town, his one-man show, dealt with some very serious issues, and I knew that Adam would be a great guest. So just a friendly sort of information. This episode does touch on suicide. It touches on depression and mental health, and it's a serious episode. There's some swears in it, which is okay, we're all big people. We deal with life on life's terms. Sometimes that involves profanity, and that's okay. So let me formally introduce Adam Cayton-Holland. Is an American writer and fantastic comedian who might be best known as his character Loren Payton on the TruTV series Those Who Can't. The show inspired a serious cult following and enjoyed 3 critically acclaimed seasons that co-starred Adam and his Grawlix partners, Andrew Orvedahl and Ben Roy. The series also spotlighted frequent guest stars like Patton Oswalt, Rory Scovel, and the Sklar Brothers. But Those Who Can't, his series that he dreamed about, wrote with his writing partners and co-executive produced, was greenlit at exactly the worst time in Adam's entire life. Adam was feeling the tremendous high of having his dreams fulfilled, of working on his very own television show, at the very same time that he was struggling with the devastation and grief he felt after his beloved younger sister Lydia committed suicide. This emotional conflict led Adam on a journey of healing and therapy, which resulted in his book, Tragedy Plus Time. It's a darkly funny memoir and a tribute to his sister. Adam consistently tours the country as a stand-up. He also has a one-man show, as I mentioned, called Happy Place, which is all about his grief journey and his sister Lydia. So without further ado, let's jump into this episode. Let's explore the bigger picture with my guest, all the way from Denver, Colorado, Adam Cayton-Holland. Mark will let me know when we're rolling the cameras. But with the, I took some notes for you, dude.
Wow. This is so professional. This is not, when you ask me to do a podcast, this is not what you expect. You're just like, all right, see you in your living room.
But that's what's funny about Laugh Fest to me, is because I've been the festival photographer from the jump. You know? So 10 years, this is the 10th year. And when you did the asks of management and you forwarded, whatever we needed, and it was like a portrait, it was kind of pulling teeth at first.
Yeah.
And then, but people showed up and they took one for the team. But at the time, and then they arrive and then they get, it's a full shoot. But it's gotten easier every year. And then
as your work sort of precedes you.
And people come back like yourself.
Sure.
And then you're like, okay, well, oh yeah, that's the festival where they do a portrait. I kind of like the one last time.
Totally.
Sometimes I can get a little more time. Like Rory Scovel did, same thing. I shot him at the Pyramid Scheme probably a year or two after you.
Okay.
And then he came back a couple years later, and we ended up doing this whole thing with golf clubs in his suite.
Oh yeah, he's such. Oh, I've seen those shots. Yeah, those are great shots.
They ended up running
in the Golf Magazine.
Yeah, the Golf Magazine's Mr. Golfer.
That's hilarious.
But he gave us an hour and a half in his hotel suite, and
cool.
He was same thing. When people are in town for a couple nights, you can usually get a little better shot at getting a better photo shoot. But now with the podcast, I'm not, it's the same thing. It's like, this local dude asked me to do a podcast, and it's like, I get it.
I mean, that's why I agreed, honestly, was because of the professionalism of the photos, and you're just a nice guy.
We are recording this, and this is all we're putting out. So whatever you say after this doesn't matter.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we're done. Can I get a ride home?
I like it. Well, Adam Cayton-Holland.
Yes.
I added the hyphen.
Thank you. So did
Thanks
my family.
Coming on. This is this was such a spur of the moment thing. We did a photo shoot last night for your show for Laugh Fest.
Yes.
At the Listening Room. What did you think of that venue, by the way?
I loved it.
Isn't that cool?
I loved it. And the guy that owned it was really cool.
Yeah.
And I'm like a 90s kid, and I watched so many MTV music videos growing up, so I just know every 90s band. And on the wall back there, it was like the Verve Pipe had signed it, and Marcy Playground had signed it, and I was like, this is awesome. And he's like, my wife's in the Verve Pipe. And I was like, what? I had no idea they're from here.
Yeah, right from here, man.
It was nice.
In fact, the lead singer, Brian Vander Eyck, was he's a buddy of mine.
Oh, wow.
He was the very first guest on the podcast.
I got to go back and give it a listen.
Well, that's episode 1.
All right.
We're still working out some kinks.
But the venue was great, and the guy that owned it was really sweet, and people came out and I had a blast.
Yeah, it was a full room, and that was great. But so I don't know if I may have a bone to pick with you.
Great.
about something, and we're going to start off with that because I need to settle this shit.
I didn't know this was WTF.
Oh, we're throwing down. We're throwing down right now.
Are we good? Are we good?
Are we good? We were just talking about Marin. But anyway, I want to talk about sweaters because you have quite a sweater game.
Yes, I do.
And I'm a zipper sweater guy.
Okay.
And you're more of a cardigan guy.
Yeah, absolutely. I used to zipper sweat, but no longer.
What was the move to the button off the zipper? Because here's my evolution.
Sure.
Then I'm going to toss it back to you.
Go ahead. You're in a zipper sweater right now.
Dude, it's my brand. People know it. They
yeah.
do dumb comments on my social media. You know, it's like, hey, great zipper. You need new zipper sweaters. Anyway, it's a thing. I don't know.
Yeah.
You don't swim upstream when the motion is taking you down. You know?
Eventually, you get to a certain age where you're like, yeah, that's my brand. I don't care anymore. I have no fight. I have no fight left in me.
We end up lazy and tired.
Yeah, dude.
You're like, okay, I'm the zipper sweater guy.
Exactly.
But I started 3/4 zips. A lot of like fleeces get too hot. You know, the start with the Patagonia,
sure,
that thing, and then I was like, no, I need to up this up. So then it became 3/4 in different materials.
Got it.
Now I'm just full zips, mostly because I've gotten fatter the last 2-3 years. I need to be able to zip out. I need to get out.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I would argue counterpoint.
Okay.
If you're worried about weight or whatever, then that the zipper might be more contained, like the button hides even better.
You think?
I think the zipper is more form-fitting than a button-up cardigan.
Yeah, but the form-fitting part, those are for the chubby chasing ladies.
Oh, I see.
It's a little more form-fitting.
I like that, putting that out there.
Yeah, because the button thing, it depends on, are you partial to a particular button material? Is it like a turtle shell, everything? Or
whatever's the most endangered whale. Just
all
like
ivory.
It's all ivory for me.
All tusks of elephants.
100%. No, I have no preference. But truthfully, I've never worn a zip-up sweater.
Really?
Never. And I'm only new to the cardigan game in the last, I don't know, let's say 10 years.
Yeah.
And I just felt like the first one I got buttons, so that's just like my look. I tried one on, it looked good for me, and so I've never gone underwears.
Does it feel good when you find a piece of wardrobe that finally sort of catches up to your pretentiousness all your life?
Well, I feel like I'm constantly outpacing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I need some.
There's no wardrobe that can contain
the
level of pretentiousness that is happening.
Well, it's funny. I always, if I play a comedy club, I'll be there for 3 days, and I usually rock the cardigan Thursday to like a statement. Yo,
I'm in town.
I'm here, and everyone needs to sort of step up their game accordingly. Openers. And then see what they do the next day. Yeah. But then by Saturday, I'm like, just chill. Yeah. Just your average ACH. I'm in town, but I like
blue collar. But by Saturday, a couple nights are in, you're more of a workhorse. You're more of a 100%. Lunch pail. You're a lunch pail comedian.
Yeah, I've been hanging out with various unions in town and just meeting the guys down by the docks, getting the real flavor. So I start up here, but then I'm a man of the people by the end of it.
I like it. I like it.
It's a whole evolution over 3 days if you book me in your city.
Well, let's go back to your history of Grand Rapids because you've intersected here a few times. I met you in 2016 was the first time we did a shoot together. Mm-hmm. You were within only 2 of your what do you call it? A trifecta of the Grawlings. Sorry,
the Groundlings. The Grawlix.
Grawlix.
The Grawlix is me and Ben Roy and Andrew Orvedahl, and we're just a trio.
Right.
And we don't really perform together. We do a show, a monthly live show, and the 3 of us will host it together. So up front, we're riffing and being funny. But then we're all just individual stand-ups on top of it.
That's why I enjoy your podcast, too. So we'll dump that in there, too, for people to check out. But you guys started a podcast maybe, last year?
No. This thing's brand new. It's only 4 episodes deep. So it's called The Grawlix Saves the World. And the bottom line is, Andrew and Ben and I have known each other for now 16 years.
Yeah.
And when you start comedy, you find the people that you're drawn to, whose sense of humor you like. And it's been these guys for a long time. And, people come and people go, but it's always been these 3, me, Ben, and Andrew, has been the consistent. And now we've done a TV show and stuff, so we're just doubling down. You'd think we'd get sick of each other, but we're just more into creating with one another.
Especially as you get older as an adult, it's hard. you don't get to spend a lot of time with people, especially now you're a newer father,
right?
And you're married, and life takes over. So that sort of dude relationships where you can hang out all the time and you find people you can tolerate.
Yeah.
In the way that you guys are on the road and writing comedy and doing a television show and all that stuff. It's amazing that you don't rip each other's heads off. You know, I mean, it really is a special.
It's a special bond for sure. And we say, you know, we had a show, Those Who Can't, for 3 years, but that was actually 3 seasons, but that was actually about 5 years of our life.
Yeah.
And pretty intense 5. And, you know, we're all from Denver. And the show made it from Denver. So it wasn't like we're in LA schmoozing. It's like 3 of us had this long shot success.
Yeah.
And it was really, we were under a microscope and a lot of network pressure. And we would bicker, we'd have problems, but it always came back to like this 3. And I think it's actually a good testament to the friendship that we're still like dying to work with each other on stuff versus like, that was enough, I need to go work with other people. It's quite the opposite. So I'm proud of us for that because they're both such good dudes. And they're definitely good friends.
Yeah, what was it like getting swept up into that sort of that TV sort of pilot machine? You know, everybody wants some kind of Netflix show. Not literally, but who wouldn't love to have any kind of show?
Of course,
you know, on Netflix,
especially if you're a comic
or whatever. Just yeah. I mean, when you can write and you have vision and you can craft something, you naturally think of that. But once you started to get sort of pulled into that system and thinking it was an opportunity. What did you think about how was the experience different than you might have imagined it to be?
I mean, our experience is very drawn out, just like real Cliff Notes version. We got the pilot that we shot was for Amazon. They gave us some money to shoot a pilot. They liked our script. We shot it, and they started to develop with us, and then they dropped us. And we're like, oh, that was our one shot, and went away. Smash cut to 1 year later. You know, a year of a lot of doubt and thinking we blew our opportunity.
Yeah.
TruTV was getting more into comedy. They had seen our pilot and they picked it up and we got 3 seasons out of it. But that's, you know, that was a lot of stress early on there.
Did you shoot, I'm kind of a production nerd too, though. So did you shoot the pilot in Denver?
Yeah, well, this, speaking of production nerdery, like it was the best thing ever. We sold the pilot to Amazon for peanuts. They gave us $50,000. Which is nothing, I now know, for a pilot. Yeah. But at the time, we'd been shooting a web series for free. $50,000 was more than we'd ever seen.
Like, hey, we're going to hire some people.
And they were like...
You don't have to light it yourself.
Well, and they let us... They're like, I remember in the meeting, they're like, can you shoot a pilot in Denver for $50,000? And we were like, we could shoot 5 pilots for $50,000.
And we're going on vacation.
Right, exactly. So that was the initial pilot that we shot in Denver over a week. You know, with that money, we like brought in... Rory Scovel and Kyle Kinane, and Nikki Glazer was in that pilot. Just our funniest friends. And then that was the one that Amazon's like, okay, let's do this. And we wrote 6 more episodes, and then eventually they shelved it.
Yeah.
And then when we got to TruTV, we had to reshoot the pilot, and that was done out in LA. But that initial seed was very much a DIY, our friends in Denver doing everything.
Yeah.
That was, and to this day, that's the most satisfying creative experience I've ever had.
Was shooting that pilot.
That week. Was like a dream come true.
Because you're bringing in your buds. They're also they're the DH coming in.
Totally.
You know, to prop up the script, create some great character. Rory's one of the best character actors.
Dude, Rory made the character Principal Quinn his own thing. And I remember very early on in the show, I'm like Loren Payton, and I want to be cool. Like I want to be the cool guy at school, the coolest teacher. And so I have this faux bravado, and Rory thought of the idea. He's like, Principal Quinn should think there's nothing cooler than my character. So he's got this very kind of like just love. He loves Loren. Yeah, he just anything I do, he just thinks it's the coolest. But he's also my authority figure, so it's a good dynamic. And Rory brings that to the table. Yeah. He's like, you know, what'd be funny is this, and you're like, yeah, that'd be hilarious.
Yeah.
But no, it was like these local filmmakers did that pilot. They've since the Nix brothers. They now live in LA and make TV.
Yeah.
But at the time, it was just this labor of love out of Denver.
Yeah.
And it ruled. It was really a funny pilot.
Well, yeah. And so what happened? So Amazon says, "What? Thanks, we'll pass."
Yeah.
Even though
much.
you created this awesome pilot.
Yeah, and then they had us write 6 episodes because they were like developing. We were in development, and then they passed, and we were so deflated.
Yeah.
And also, I had awful personal stuff going on in my life at the time that was like, so I was just, it was a rough year. But lo and behold, you never know. Like someone saw the pilot, TruTV resurrected it, and we got 3 seasons out of it.
Yeah,
which was great.
That's incredible.
Yeah,
and then so 3 seasons. So that's not 3 full years. It's probably like you found out in season 1 at some point you're going to get renewed. And
right in the early season 1, we got season 2 quickly, and then season 3 was like, are we going to get it? And we got it. And then kind of during season 3, we're like, I think this is going to be the end. You could just get a sense for those things.
Yeah.
And that was last year. So now we're, working on the next thing.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. And I asked you last night a little bit about it, but just having that experience hopefully puts you towards the front of the line of a hard look.
Doors are more open because people are like, they've done it. These guys can successfully.
That's the thing is, when I see the chatter through your guys' social, like people love those who can't. Like they was really found a hardcore fan base.
It really did, and they're the sweetest fan base, and it's a cult comedy for sure. And I mean, I'm not throwing anybody under the bus, but like TruTV aired it in a way that was very much, hey, it's on at 8 on Thursdays. And people are like, oh, we don't know what that means. We don't watch TV like that anymore. So it was a hard show to find.
Right.
But those that did find it, like, really embraced it. And we had, like, Patton Oswalt was an early champion of it. And all these very cool comics that we've worshipped from afar were like, this is really funny. And we're shouting it out. So, yeah, it's great. And when, I travel and do comedy and meet people who are those who can't fans, it's like this little family, and they're real nerds. They're super into it.
Well, it has sort of that, maybe on a slightly different scale, but that's sort of like Arrested Development, sort of like crap. But you lock into the characters, and the fan base sort of finds it. That sort of connection is what I'm talking about to the show, which is a high compliment when you get people
hey man, I'll take it.
Yeah.
Well, we had 2 writers actually that went on to write for Arrested Development from our show. Yeah, and like so we love that show and love that sensibility.
That's awesome. So the other, so just to go back to Grand Rapids. So you, when was the first time you performed in Grand Rapids?
First time I performed in Grand Rapids must have been 2013. Okay. I went and headlined Dr. Grins.
Yeah.
Early on in my headlining experience.
Yeah, you talked last night about tanking there. Was that the year that you tanked, or was that later?
Yeah, no, it was the year. Yeah, I mean, I'm not shy about talking about it. It's what my whole one-man show is about. But I lost my little sister to suicide in 2012. And then literally we sold that pilot to Amazon 2 weeks later. So it's like this just career success, worst thing ever imaginable happening all at the same time. And so when I came to Grand Rapids, I got booked and I was not in a good headspace. And I maybe did fine. I talked to Yoder and he's like, I don't remember you bombing that hard. And I was like, well, I remember it differently. Yeah. But it was just a dark time for me. Yeah, and I want to just put a pin in that because I do want to circle back on it. But then we, so you've been to Grand Rapids a few times. So that was the first one, and then they had me back for that festival where you and I met. Yeah, that was 16. And then this is the third time. And then you may or may not be coming back to so you have a couple different shows. Let me just check. I'm going to check your notes. Check your notes. I'll drink this delicious Grand Rapids water during the break. There it is. Well, let's talk about the 2 different arms. So you have a show that you travel with. It stemmed from a book that you wrote, right? And I'll tee it up, but just the but you've had a traditional stand-up career. You've done stuff with the Grawlix as a trio. Mm-hmm. You do solo stand-up. You know, you're working traveling guy. But I'm a troubadour. Last night we saw at the listening room. It was all related to your book and your sister Lydia. Yeah, and the book is called Tragedy Plus Time. But is this the show that you put on last night? Does it have its own name? Yeah, it's called Happy Place. Happy Place. That's right. Happy Place. And then, what's cool, I think, is that you have this whole side of you that helps people through your story. And it's so well crafted. Thank you. It's really is truly amazing. And but then you have your regular comedy act and your own writing and just your own. That's its own thing. But you have these 2 lanes. They're definitely talk about separate. Having these 2 channels of your brain. Well, it's interesting. When you go through something like that and you're on stage as a career funny man and you don't feel funny. Yeah, it's hard. But I didn't talk about my little sister much at all and what I went through at all on stage, ever. Yeah. And then But I'm a writer. I wrote for a newspaper for 5 years. I always was a writer before I was a comic. And so I just started.
Even your wiki says writer. It doesn't say comedian.
Yeah, I consider myself a writer first. If I'm a comic, it's because I'm a failed writer. But I started writing about it and just like putting out. I wrote this one piece and it was very cathartic, and I cried and wrote it out, and then I kind of put it out online because I just did, and it like exploded. And I was like, well, clearly there's something here, and then it felt good to write, so I just kept writing, and I wrote the book. And I thought, and the book is all about what I went through, and I very much didn't write the book with the goal of this is going to help people. Like, I wrote it to help myself.
I think that's a great distinction, if you don't mind me popping in, because I just think I think in society there's a lot of things we do to help, and we send kids to like go paint houses in the third world, and it's a lot of cool church groups, and that's all great, but it's not really what's necessary. And I think if you just the mindset of the book, I think I just connected on that because I think it's great when people aren't thinking of you're just writing and sharing from your own perspective, but not with this prism. It's like, oh, how can I help people?
For sure,
and because it's not as organic as
No, and it feels opportunistic, and like you're seizing on a market for grief.
Yeah,
and I really wanted to write this. A literary agent approached me and was like, you should write a book about this. I read the thing you wrote. You should write a book about it. And I'm a writer. I've always wanted to write a book. Sure. I was like, of course. And so I 100% processed a lot of things by writing it. I didn't sit down at the computer and be like, I've gathered my thoughts. Let's go. It was as I wrote, I found my thoughts. And honestly, I mean, the only benefit that comes out of it, I've learned, is just this is an honest depiction of mental illness and suicide and what it does to a family and all of it.
And you would expect...
And all you can do is be honest.
That's my point, and I started to jump on the back of that. But it's just seeing the show last night, it's so raw and honest, but at the same time, you've done brilliantly in the writing and performance of it to give it the levity that it needs, to give people a breath to collect themselves. Because I think these issues are the hardest things for people to understand, mental illness and depression and whatever... then is the domino that starts off where eventually it could lead to suicide.
Right.
Is the most complicated, I think, thing of all things to sort of wrap your head around, and the collateral damage, which you do such a great job of describing.
Well, thanks.
Is something that, but just as a stage show, and watching you perform it. It really was that roller coaster in such a positive but empathetic way, and I think you've brilliantly danced around all these issues that you even talk about on stage.
Thanks,
Is
man.
it optional? Can I have permission? I'm doing this.
Yeah.
Or, can I talk about you have these, sort of permission with your sister to kind of move the ball forward?
Well, and truthfully, like, Lydia was so damn funny.
Yeah.
So funny and dark, clearly, and just freakishly intelligent. Like, my older sister is so smart, and I'm decently intelligent, but Lydia just ran circles around us.
Yeah. So was she the youngest of you?
She was the youngest. Yeah. So to do anything less than perfect or anything, God forbid, cheesy or self-helpy would be such a disservice to Lydia. With the book and with the show, my goal is to like make people understand her and get to know her a little bit and like celebrate her and in a sad way keep her alive a little bit. Like this was an amazing person that mental illness just took out, and it sucks, and here's what happened.
Right.
And I don't know why I thought the book would just scratch the itch. Like, I've talked about it, I'm done, but it awakened the desire to talk about her even more on stage. And I kind of talk about that in the show, but but it
also creates kind of a sense of obligation to keep going. You know what I mean? Because I would imagine that when you connect to an audience that connects to the book and then wants to talk to you, and they have their own experiences.
Yeah.
Is that taxing for you to hear?
Sure. I mean, after every show, you would not believe the things people say, but I would be such an asshole if I was like, sorry, show's over. Like, I'm up there bearing my soul about a very personal, very hard to talk about thing.
Yeah.
And more often than not, everyone in the audience, or 80% of the audience, has had something like this, and they want to share. So yes, it's taxing to hear people's awful grief-filled stories, but you just say, I'm sorry. And as I say in the show, it's like, hey, it sucks and doesn't get better, but like, we're talking about it. It's all right. Yeah. You know? So, but yeah, I can't leave the venue under an hour after the show. I gotta sit and chat with people and hear their stories. Well, it's because
you've opened the door. You've led with vulnerability.
I'm leading. I put myself up there.
Yeah.
And it'd be wrong to then just vanish into the night. But I have done some shows where, especially early on and in Denver, where many people that knew her and me were there. And I was just like so overwhelming. I literally got off stage and like walked out the back door and got in my car and just drove and drove. It's just like, I got to get out of here.
Deservedly so, for sure. But there was a fascinating part of the discussion, and then I read you published an article in Esquire, and it was about the therapy.
The EMDR therapy.
And I was so enthralled with that about memory recovery.
Right.
And there was this cheesy part of me when you were describing these vibration tools or whatever they had in it. It was like, for a minute, I go, is this kind of like a Scientology type of thing?
I know, right?
Which seems kind of strange, but it's not at all. And forgive me for even like bringing up Scientology with it, but it was just the
I know what you're saying.
In the hands.
It's the devices in the hands.
Yeah.
It's hard to describe without sounding a little sci-fi.
Yeah.
But truly, they're just like buttons you hold that buzz. You know, it's not like some weird machine you're hooked up to.
So, sorry, will you just tee up this therapy? Because I think it was so interesting, and I also was curious if it helps. And obviously, you can describe how it helped you and why that therapist thought it would be a good journey for you to go on.
Sure.
But then, are there other applications for this type of thing other than grief and death and things like that?
Well, that I don't know. But so basically the therapy is EMDR, and it stands for eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. So essentially it's for people who've gone through trauma. It's for PTSD.
Yeah.
So a lot of soldiers that come back from wars do this stuff. And truthfully, it's about, for me, and I can only talk about my experience, it was about having specific traumatic memories and flashbacks and nightmares that were fucking me up.
Yeah.
And so this was a way, as my therapist explained to me, using the metaphor of the brain being like a filing cabinet, and this awful memory of my little sister was like an errant file that kept popping up. And so this therapy, which simulates REM, rapid eye movement, is designed to help you file that away in an orderly fashion. It was weird, as I didn't want to lose the memory. It was. I mean, I'll just tell your listeners, I found my little sister, and it was awful, as you can imagine, and that haunted me and still does. But
I'm sorry, just to clarify, you were talking about when she passed.
Yeah,
you found her.
I was the one who found her.
I just wanted to clarify what you meant. But
so that's
very traumatic,
very traumatic, and it'll shock anybody into a catatonic state, and it was fucking me up, and so. That was the memory that she's like, we can get control of this. But what was weird is, I think I was saying, is I didn't want to lose it, which is a weird thing. I didn't want to lose it. I wanted that memory. It was it was my final one with her, and in a weird, dark way, there was an intimacy about it. And it's like, I found my sis, and I wanted that memory. So she's like, it's not going to go away, but we're going to control it. And so the therapy really worked for me.
What I was curious about, and maybe I misheard the direction, but did it help you recover other memories, just positive memories throughout your lives together?
It did, because that memory of finding her was so shocking and all just dominating that it seemed to like take up more space in my brain than it should have.
Yeah.
And I think that, I don't know the technical stuff, I don't know the science behind this, but like I think it pushed away other memories or sublimated them. And so in doing this and filing it away, it felt like other memories came back. It felt like I could only remember bad things about my sister. The last 2 years, which were, when you actually think about it, an aberration in her life. So it was a way of making those 2 years occupy less space in my brain and getting the previous 26 back. I mean, is the kind of way to look at it. And it's heavy,
it makes sense
stuff,
to me. And it's like, as I get older, I'm 51 now. So it's like, there are times, like, you think about, like, my parents are in town right now. I was telling you about this. They came in town to help. My daughter had some surgery and things, so it's pretty intense at home just with, kind of this care for her, which is fine. It's, it's going to have a great outcome.
Yeah.
But right now we're in the weeds. And, so my parents are in town, so, the thing, you flash back to certain stuff, and we were talking about this original neighborhood in Detroit where I was born on the east side. So anyway, I can't remember that, and then you start thinking about other stuff, and I wondered if there was more of a, maybe not a therapeutic thing, maybe it's beat therapy, but to recover memories was what I was kind of thinking
it's
about.
the brain is like complex, and I often say, we're 25 years removed from electroshock therapy. We don't understand the brain. No one's like crushing it. Even this EMDR, the most specific, chemistry, we still, in 100 years, people are going to look back at what we were doing as like archaic with the brain. So,
well, I was telling you about my daughter, and she had a brain surgery right out of the womb, and she had a couple of them. But I was talking to her neurosurgeon, right? This guy's brilliant. He cracks open people's heads all the time, to fix their brains or to save their lives or accidents, injuries, whatever. So I was grilling about all these prognosis, and even though my daughter had just been born and she hadn't even had her first, we just knew she'd had a brain hemorrhage. So I was asking about her, what's she going to be like, or what kind of deficit. I was trying to, and he's he goes, we don't know a lot about the brain.
This is the neurosurgeon said.
This is the neurosurgeon. And I appreciated the candor. But also, he said it doesn't, he deals a lot in brain injuries. And I think in some ways the trauma of stress and these things that you're talking about are injuries to the brain.
Absolutely.
And you can't really predict how people will react. So he was just talking about physical blunt injuries to the brain, whether it's a stroke, a hemorrhage, or if it might be a car accident or something. He'd say a large area of a brain could look terrible. And you could have a high-functioning person.
Right.
And then you could have a scan of a brain, and there's a very small area affected, and they're almost vegetative.
Right, but it's the perfectly bad area.
Yeah, and it's just you don't really know. And they don't know outcomes. They don't know recoveries. They can't predict.
Right.
And
so
complicated when you add emotion and stress and all these, all of it.
I'm lucky that I found someone who I later learned was like a leading expert in the field, and she was excellent at what she did. And people are always like, can I get her number? And she doesn't even do it anymore. She's out the game. But I've talked, being now a sort of spokesperson for this, or I wrote an article about it, and I've found many people will come to me after shows and say, I did EMDR, and it didn't work for me, and it was awful, because you're reliving the most traumatic moment of your life, and if you don't have a skilled practitioner there with you,
you need
it's like any field. There's good people and bad people in it. So to people who have done it and it didn't work, I always say, like, maybe try it again with someone else, or just leave it. I get it. You don't need to relive trauma for no reason.
Right.
But I was very lucky that the first one was like, swish, she's perfect, this is helping, and it worked for me. So that I'm a messiah of her specific treatment for me.
Yeah,
but I can't really speak to it for society at large.
That trust in doctors and those things, like you alluded in your show, some unsuccessful attempts at therapy after, where some really crazy shit was suggested to you, and these are supposedly professionals. And you see that in every side of the thing, but I think my takeaway, which is a bit of a left turn here, is just that, the healthcare system in the United States, especially around mental health, we think if you have a physical problem, it seems to be more of a transactional relationship. I have a broken arm, I can get it fixed. I need my appendix out, or even like a cancer, I can get chemo. There's a process and there's a roadmap.
Yeah.
With mental illness or any kind of depression or any kind of those things, it is so hard to unravel and diagnose and then get people on the right track, because you're dealing with the brain, which is not fixing a tendon. It's a really complicated space. So I get why it's a weird space.
Well, it's also like, if any good comes out of what I'm doing, it's like destigmatizing, because it is, even in woke ass 2020, we still whisper like, suicide. Like, it's there, it's prevalent. Mm-hmm. And I often say, like, my family is of means. My dad's a lawyer. Yeah. My mom, we're fine. We got Lydia the best help we could get her immediately, and we didn't have to worry about price. We just, anything you need, whatever, and we still lost.
Yeah.
So if like I can't imagine what it's like to be homeless and schizophrenic and have nothing or no one. It's
or just
terrifying.
Uninsured.
Just uninsured. Yeah.
Which drives me crazy about, that was my other part of the left turn. The part two of it was just like these people that will beat their chests about America having the best health insurance in the world.
Right.
Or the best, not insurance.
Yeah,
but
no, I feel like not even anyone says that anymore. Yeah.
Is a joke. You're living in the most biggest pile of putrid ignorance when you say that about our healthcare system.
Yeah.
And I say it from the experience of our family. I can't imagine that. I can't imagine, you talk about means. I don't have lots of money. I pay a shit ton for great healthcare.
I'm sure.
And my own health insurance.
Yeah.
And we're fortunate, and it bleeds me dry every single year. Like, the burden of that is unbelievable. But if you don't have those things, your parents and insurance and things you could provide to Lydia were exceptional. The deficits and the sort of things that we perpetuate as a society by keeping impoverished people out of the healthcare system is creating so much garbage.
And it's just like a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Absolutely.
Yep, America's perfect.
straight from Rocky Mountain territory.
Yeah, dog.
Well, thanks for letting me vent on that.
No, I hear you. I hear you.
But I have so much empathy, and I think that's part of why your show's great. Is it? When you go through this types of, nobody asked for this. No one. You didn't ask for this to be projected into your family dynamic.
No.
And I didn't ask for my kids to have health problems and just the collateral things.
Sure.
But it does crack you open in a way that if there are any silver linings to anything, what have you learned from this process of the journey of healing? You're never healed.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I think, it's two-pronged, because I am a cynical comic that likes to shit on everything just out of nature.
Yeah.
But it has made me way more vulnerable
Yeah.
and empathetic. Lydia was empathetic to like a alarming degree.
Yeah.
And I wonder, that was true from when she was a baby all the way to the end. And I wonder if she just felt too much.
Right.
But it has awakened an empathy in me of just how hard it is to be a human. And so like, I think it's made me be a little bit more aware of like, everyone's struggling with some shit.
Yeah.
All the time.
Yeah.
So like, if you're angry at that guy, just step back for a second.
Yeah.
You have no idea what his day was like or what he's got going on at home.
Yeah.
It's done that for me, but it's also made me a little more, less afraid of death.
Really?
Yeah. I just like, I
wouldn't have seen that coming.
I have a 1-year-old now, and I clearly want to see him have kids. I want to be around as long as I can possibly be around. I just am in love with this dude. But I don't know. It seems to not scare me anymore. I just feel like I think my dad is sort of a spiritual guy, and not in a doctrinal way, but just in a hippie from Berkeley type of way. And it's just kind of like, it's better to just stare wide-eyed in amazement at the fact that you're here for any time at all.
Yeah.
Especially with the shit that can go wrong. I got so many friends who've lost kids and stuff like that. So it's just like, hey, you've got a kid. You're here. Things are beautiful. Yeah. Just be in it.
Well, this has come up on the podcast quite a bit. Is just being, trying to be intentionally present. All I have is right now. It's you and me. It's me and Adam talking.
I wrote a joke on stage. I'll pull this out. And I go, hold on. I got to set a reminder to be in the moment. But yes,
but there's some truth to it because everything's ethereal, and once it's gone in terms of like what happened 10 minutes ago. But just getting back to about death and you being unafraid of it. I'm kind of more afraid of death, but not for myself now. It's because the vulnerability of my kids that I think about how hard it's going to be if it would. But that makes me more fearful, but it's a different type of fear than...
Yeah, no, I'm fearful for that as well. Like, who's going to provide for my kids? But, I ran out and got $1 million health insurance policy, and it's like, there you go, kid. But no, I definitely am fearful of that component of it. But I guess sort of... bigger picture,
like you exiting the planet.
And this is what, like, you have to really tap in. You can't live in this place, but like I just think of it on terms of evolutionary scale.
Yeah.
And how long have humans been around? A couple 100,000 years, if that.
Yeah.
And the planet's been around billions of years, and it's still like a blip.
Yeah.
So I'm almost 40. That's like so minute.
Yeah.
And on that scale, 140 are the same level of minute.
Yeah.
So if I'm out today or if I'm out tomorrow on the vast scale of all time, it was the same little fucking blip.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to enjoy the blip.
Well, true. And we're all here. That's the other thing that I think that brings to you. So, you try to savor and anticipate special moments more, even your day to day, it's just, it's hard. It's cheesy. It's to say it that way, but it really is. If you can focus a little bit more on the practice of it, it only takes a second to go, I'm gonna enjoy the next 5 minutes.
Yeah. Well, all this shit is cheesy and cliche because it works. And, stereotypes are stereotypes for a reason because they're kind of out there.
Right.
So, like, the stereotype of self-help is like, be in the moment, enjoy it. And it sounds cheesy, like we're reading off of inspirational mugs. But it does sort of just boil down to that.
Yeah.
And so the level of candor and earnestness might, like, make cynical people bristle, but it is that.
Well, I think it's anything. Nothing works unless you commit to something. You know what I mean? It can be comedy or career. It could be just finishing a book.
Sure.
Just like anything. And that's around just these little framing the orientation of your mind in such a way that you can just cause your brain to pause and just take a little extra oxygen in that moment and get it going.
Now I'm a parent too, so I'm trying to be like, no screens, kiddo. So we should all toss these into the ocean.
Yeah.
Because they're making us mentally ill. But I find a lot of it is leaving that and going outside does wonders for me. Yeah. Hiking, just being an outdoorsy dude. And I don't do it enough.
Right.
But every time I do it, I'm like, why am I not doing this all the time?
I feel the same way. Every time I go to Lake Michigan, which is only 30 minutes away, door to door. I mean, in L.A. or Denver, it takes a lot long. It almost takes just as long as it took to get from downtown Grand Rapids to my studio here.
Yeah.
We'd be 5 minutes from the beach pretty much.
Yep.
And you just, it's that kind of stuff that it's hard to make time for when all the other noise of your life gets in the way.
Right, I could be doing that, but meanwhile I'm like on my computer like making a meme to compete with a 19-year-old YouTube comic. I'm like, what am I doing?
Yeah. Well, was it last night we talked about? Yeah, you said no TikTok for you.
No, no.
Yeah, I can't even get near it.
No, I'll do the Instagram. I'm on Facebook and Twitter, but I took those off my phone. So,
did you really?
Yeah. So if I want to like tweet, I sit down at a laptop to tweet.
Nice.
So I'm not just buried in it all the time.
Yeah. Well, that's good for you because I am horrified when you see your screen time come up. Do you ever get the?
Yeah.
Oh God.
It's fucking the worst. Yeah. I've tried to make it less every week, but some weeks if I've got something I'm promoting, it's like way up.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, just tell me, I want to be sensitive of your time, and just the special thing we did during Laugh Fest was for you to pop out here and do this. I didn't know you were in town for 2 days, and I didn't even think about, and I have to be careful. I'm not trying to use my platform of photography, being a festival photographer, to like ask comics to do things, but it just seemed to, I'd known you before, too.
Yeah, I'm happy to do this. I'm glad it worked out.
But it was good to get you out here. What are you excited about for 2020 in terms of touring and other opportunities you have coming up?
It just seems like it's going. So I'm doing the one-man show, and I'm taking it to the Edinburgh Fringe Festival, which is something I've always wanted to do. I'm very excited about that.
You were telling me a little bit about that last night.
Yeah, and like it's the world's biggest festival, and it's kind of where you go when you have a show that has a little bit more meat on the bones. I mean, you can take a regular stand-up show there, but I think the desire is that you bring a sort of story to tell.
Yeah.
And so I finally feel like I've got something worth it. That I want to go tell. So I'm excited for that. But I do regular stand-up on the side, and I have like a great hour I'm working on.
Yeah.
I'm happy about all that. So yeah, I'm working on 2 scripts. I just had a vinyl record come out on Saddle Creek, which is like a really cool record label I've always loved. So I'm just doing the thing.
Yeah.
Just grinding and trying to be a good dad.
Last thing I ask you is just the idea. Do you think much about being a business person in comedy or as an entertainer, writer, like just as a practice of entrepreneurship. That's the one thing we occasionally weave into is pursuing a passion as a business. And you make your money and off opportunities you create with your mind and the pen.
Yeah.
And just that's a special place to grind away at it because you're not selling anything anybody needs. It's not a widget. It's not a carton of eggs.
For sure. I don't bother with that type of thinking. I need what I'm putting out.
Right.
And as a kid, I would like nothing more than TV shows and movies and books and music. For me, there's nothing more valuable than that.
Yeah.
So if like anyone's getting anything out of what I'm putting out, then that I'm doing something worthwhile.
Yeah.
But it is a hard, you're like, I'm looking at 40 and being like, am I going to be doing... Because every year is like, I hope I sell something this year. And you get tired of, as a creative, constantly trying to like prove yourself.
Right.
And you're like, I've been grinding at this for 16 years. At any other profession, I'd be like a junior partner or something. But it's still just like, make this new audience laugh with their arms crossed.
Right.
But I couldn't do anything else. If I stopped, I'd go crazy. I have too many like ideas I want to put out there.
Yeah, and I feel that way too. I could never pivot after. I think it's 23 years I've been doing this full time.
Yeah, man.
And no net, and it's like to think of like making a salary or going into the same office every day.
But you know what? I was talking to this guy, John Novosad. He's a comic from Denver. He's in his 50s. He used to go by Hippie Man. He's got long hair. He's here at the festival. He's such a crusher. And, he's been doing it forever. And he lives in Boulder, Colorado. He rides the bus down to Denver to perform every night. He's a killer. But is he a giant comic that everybody knows? No. And he was talking to me today about how lucky we are to have a creative life. And just like, he's like, look at this, man. We're getting coffee in Grand Rapids. They brought us out here. We're in a nice, fancy hotel. Like, this rules.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, John, this rules. And I think that's sort of the being in the moment and appreciative. Like, he's living a very interesting, creative, funny life.
Yeah.
And he's lucky to be doing it.
Well, and it's kind of the keeping up with the Joneses idea too, because if you never will get any satisfaction if you're always unsatisfied where you're at. But if you rewound your career 10 years and you looked at a young comic today who would kill to have had the opportunities you've had, be on TruTV with those who can't, and have these vehicles and a great writer, and the seasoning that you have as a performer on both sides of your stand-up genres. You would have taken somebody out to be in the position you are right now today.
Dude, that record label, Saddle Creek, was like Bright Eyes, Desaparecidos, Cursive. They're out of Omaha. As a young kid, I worshipped at the altar of that label. I loved them. And I liked them even more because these musicians were making it out of Omaha on their own terms and not going to LA or New York. And I was like, and that planted in me the seed of like, hey, maybe you can make it from your home city and just kind of be where you're from and represent where you're from. You don't have to flee to LA or New York. And then that label just put out my vinyl. I'm the first comic on the label.
Yeah.
And you got to stop and be like, that's cool, man. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Don't bitch and moan about what you don't have right now. 19-year-old Adam would like be doing cartwheels in the front yard. So yeah, you got to like be appreciative of that.
Yeah. Well, here's a great segue. I appreciate you coming here.
I appreciate you having me here.
Well, and it's been good to do. I'll share the photo session we did last night.
I love those pics. I can't wait to see.
I can't wait to work them up. And then we have a couple portraits from when we met in 2016. So I'll fill that up on your episode page at the.
And just to sort of bookend it, it's not a cardigan, but the jacket in the 2016 pic. I since lost it. What a jacket.
That was a fire jacket.
What a jacket.
Yeah.
Really big fan of that jacket.
I just love that
check it out.
That was still one of my favorite little moments. And I just remembered you being just clicking in, right? Because that shoot, I don't think it lasted more than 90 seconds.
It was in a parking lot.
Yeah,
it was very quick.
And it was just playing around with graffiti. And then and then I just said, why don't you will you just shimmy up really close to this wall? And then just the look, it was great. And those are the shoots that, you don't need to shoot a lot. Because if you see it there, it's like, why ruin it?
Yeah.
It's just a great bit.
I love that bit, or I love that photo, and I used it a bunch. So it was a fun one.
It was good. I'll send you a bill. All right. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. You, no one will hear this, but you're back tonight performing some stuff and you're back out. So
I'm out there. I'm in them streets telling jokes.
Anytime you're in GR, man, let's grab up some coffee and we'll figure life out.
I like that a lot, for sure.
Man. Thanks, Adam.
Thank you.
Well, I really enjoyed that episode with Adam Cayton-Holland. I'm not sure I got Adam over completely into the full zipper sweater camp. I think he's going to be in the cardigan camp for quite some time. He's in my prayers. He's in my thoughts and best wishes for his wardrobe journey, but full zips are where it's at, Adam. Also, check out that killer coat, that jacket that he mentioned right at the end of the episode. I put photo of him up, the portrait that we did in 2016. So check out his episode page at the fullexposurepodcast.com site. And also, if you can, support Laugh Fest. As I mentioned, they had to suspend the rest of their festival and their entire remaining lineup due to the coronavirus outbreak. So all the proceeds go to support Gilda's Club of Grand Rapids. They support people on their cancer and grief journeys, and a fantastic organization. So if you can slide $5 or $10 their way, just go to laughfestgr.org and toss them a few bucks, and they will make sure they impact people in a very, very, very positive way. All right, everybody, have a great week. Don't touch anything. Don't touch anyone. Just listen to podcasts. Go back into our archive. There are now 30 episodes. If this is your first episode, I don't know what you're waiting for. Just start at episode 1 and play through 29, and then you'll be caught up. So, hey, everybody, have a great week. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye. This Full Exposure podcast episode has been made possible through the support of Metro Health, University of Michigan Health, and Dr. Peter Hahn, who believe that creativity and the arts are essential to a rich, healthy, and fulfilling life.